Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a book review on Tsarina by Nelle Patrick. Tsarina takes place in Russia at the height of the Russian Revolution. In the middle of all of this is a young girl named Natalia who is in love with the heir to the Russian throne, Alexei Romanov. One day, Alexei tells Natalia a secret. Hidden in the Winter Palace is a magical Fabergé egg enchanted by Rasputin himself to protect the Romanov family against their enemies. But the revolution hits, the Romanovs are taken as prisoners, and the magical egg goes missing. Natalia, along with her best friend, is forced to team up with a young man named Leo, who is part of the Red Army. Together they travel through war-torn Russia in order to retrieve the magical egg and to set things right in Russia and to restore the Romanov throne. Wow, you guys, I freaking love this book. I seriously went into this book not expecting too much. You guys know how picky I am with the YA genre, and I was kind of expecting this to be kind of really silly. And I was expecting some ridiculous love triangle to somehow occur, as well as the leading lady being some annoying heroine. And can I just say how glad I am that I was proven wrong. Even though the synopsis of this novel states quite plainly that Natalia and Alexei Romanov are in love with each other, the thing about this story is that it's ultimately not really a love story. There are elements of romance involved, but the romance is not the big thing you have to take from this book. What I in particular loved about this book was the politics and the politics of that era. I really love anything that takes place during the Russian Revolution. It was such a turbulent time and so much happened, and just Russia is just torn apart. And so the number one big thing that I was worried about going into this book was the fact that the history of that time period wouldn't be put into the story, that it would just turn into a love story. So the great thing that I loved about this book was the fact that history really floods the pages. And Nelle Patrick clearly did her research. I could see the research staring at me. Everything from clothing, architecture, food, the geography, I could really tell that the author did the research on every single little element and made it all very believable. And like I said, going back to the politics of the book, this book is very much focused on the political climate of the time period. And in her author acknowledgments, there's a really great part that I have to quote for you guys. And this is something that I think just perfectly sums up what I took as the theme of this book. My hope is that, factual or fabricated, every line in Tsarina leads to a single truth. That when you forget that those you disagree with are people, not just your faceless opposition, you don't end up proving who is right and who is wrong. You end up with a body count. Wow, I really loved just that statement in her author acknowledgments. And like I said, that really just wraps up what I took from this book. I don't know if anyone else took what I took from the book, but that is what I personally took. And that quote alone is just the very basis of this novel. For one thing, you have the White Army versus the Red Army. The White Army being those who are loyal to the monarchy, and the Red Army who are people who want revolution and want to create a different sort of Russia. And more importantly, they want all Russians to be equal. So you have that dynamic between these two opposing armies, but you also have this dynamic between all the different characters, because you have Natalia, who is a Russian noble, and she's obviously in support of the White Army. And then you have Leo, who is poor and has constantly had to work his whole life. And so obviously he supports the Red Army. So you have this great dynamic between Natalia and Leo and their opposing viewpoints, and they're at constant odds throughout the entire novel, which is just so great. And both sides, both Natalia and Leo, you get to see how they view things, and that they're trying to let the other kind of see what they're seeing. And so you come to realize that the Red Army and the White Army, it doesn't really matter. Everyone is still after the same thing, ultimately. And both sides still want Russia to be great and grand. And so both Leo and Natalia, they see both sides and what's at stake for Russia. So moving on to characters, this was such a really fantastic set of characters. I really loved all these characters. Natalia was a great heroine. She's a noble. She's interacted with the Romanov family her whole life. And she kind of has this assumption that she is going to marry Alexei Romanov sometime in the future, and she's been preparing her whole life to be the next Tsarina, hence the title. And so of course she's a noble, she does have her arrogance, and she does look down on people sometimes, but she's also very determined, as well as compassionate and intelligent. And Natalia said she is a noble lady. She could have easily just stood in the background of all of this action and done nothing, but I love that she takes physical action in a lot of these scenes. So kind of contrasting against Natalia is her best friend Amelia, who is the very essence of spoiled upper-class Russian nobility. But even over the course of the novel, Amelia proves her own worthiness. And so you have these two very different girls, but they each provide something to the narrative. And then you have Leo, like I said, who is part of the Red Army, and he's very idealistic about the Red Army's, their motives and ideals. Not only does he support the Red Army, but he also despises the monarchy for his own personal reasons. So you have these three characters, and just the way they're all brought up, these three characters, they all clash together in a very unique way, I think. Overall, like I said, I just love this book so much. I think it's definitely, when I do my best of 2014 list, I really think Tsarina is going to be pretty close to the top of my list. That's just how much I enjoyed it. And don't let the fact that it's a YA book deter you from reading it, because it was a surprise from start to finish. And I can't believe how much really rich depth was there. The story is very surprisingly emotional, and like I said, the historical research is extremely well done. So yeah, if you like Russian historical fiction just as much as me, I think you will enjoy this just as much. So that's it for my review on Tsarina. Have you guys read this, or are you interested in reading it? Just let me know. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and if you liked this book review, you may like these. Bye guys.